Kia ora, I'm Erin J. Doyle. Welcome to my channel. I have been gone for over a year and I think it makes sense to reintroduce myself. So this video is going to be the AuthorTube Newbie Tag. I'm going to be doing the 2.0 because I did the 1.0 when I launched my channel a couple of years ago. And I haven't read the questions. I've read question 1 and failed to answer it correctly. But the rest of them we're going to try and do off the cuff, blind answering, and hope that we don't have to do 50 million takes because the day is running out. So without further ado, we're going to attempt to speak coherently and without stumbling over our tongue, and we're going to know the answers to the questions about our passions. That is what we are going to do. Okay, so AuthorTube Newbie Tag 2.0 question 1. What is your book's pitch? I struggle with this a little bit, but when I tried to explain that earlier it was a 5-minute rabbit hole, so I'm going to try and be concise and not go into the struggle. My Camino story is a literary novel about a New Zealander who goes to Spain to walk the Camino de Santiago after being inspired by an artwork at an exhibition. And the story focuses on the setting, the physical and mental struggles of walking 778, I believe, kilometers alone, and of the people that you meet along the way. I'm not like 100% down with the pitch as I have it at the moment, but that's what I have. Okay, we're just going to move on. Okay, question 2. If you were a book, how would you pitch yourself? Oh god, I should have read these questions in advance. If I was a book, how would I pitch myself? I don't even know what genre I would pick, I guess. Probably like something to do with comedy and occasional wisdoms and silly stories or something. I don't know. This question's dumb. I'm moving on. I don't know myself. This video is going swimmingly so far. Question 3. What do you usually write? Well, obviously my most recent book's been literary fiction. I've published poetry, but a lot of my ideas are more in the sci-fi fantasy route. I'd say probably fantasy primarily, but I haven't actually written them. They're just the ones that I think about a lot. So I guess at the moment, like poetry and literature, or literary fiction, but we'll see. Hopefully I can actually get one of my many fantasy ideas on paper and then I can say I usually write fantasy, because like that's what I usually think about. Question 4. What's something you'll never write? I don't see myself writing a romance. Not because there's anything wrong with them, like I've read some romances, but it's not typically what I pick up, so I don't see a genre that I don't typically choose becoming a genre that I would typically write. Yeah. Alright, question 5. What's your goal for starting an AuthorTube channel? I think when I did start this channel, I was talking about like, there's a monkey see, monkey do aspect, right? Like I had gone onto YouTube looking for advice on writing and then seen all these people making videos and I was like, ooh, that looks fun, so I thought I'd give it a go. Basically is where I started at. Something that I want to do is I have this little dream that my Camino story will be published and then I'll walk the Camino de Santiago for a 3rd time, and whilst I'm doing it I'm going to carry a physical copy of my published book with me, even though that will add to the weight of my pack, but it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. And at specific locations that I have described in detail in the book that you could actually recognize, I want to like go to that location with the book and make a video of me like reading that scene, and like I just think that'd be a cool thing to do for promotion for the book that will one day exist, and I thought if I already have a pre-existing channel, then that would give me a place to put that content. So it's a very boring and practical thing that has been on my mind. And yeah, I think mostly it's a combination of wanting to have a place to interact with other writers on a wider scale than just the local events, and also to have a place to eventually post potentially kind of promotional-ish related content when I actually have such content to post. Number 6. What made you want to start writing? I started telling stories before I could spell my name or tie my shoes. Like, I was tiny in telling stories. It's not a thing I decided to start to do, it's a thing that is just a fundamental part of who I am, and writing them down instead of just telling the person I'm talking to ensures that the quality of the story is better because I get to review it and polish it, and also the person who's interacting with the story isn't going to be like, well, you're talking for too long, and walk away. So yeah, I think for me, writing is a natural progression from something that I have had from birth, it seems, inclination to do. It's not really even a choice, I don't think. Okay, number 7. What's your publishing path? Self-published, traditional published, hybrid, haven't decided yet, etc. So, at the moment I'm going traditional. I foresee a possible future where I'll get you back under control. I'll edit this bit out. Okay. I think it's possible that I'll end up going hybrid and publishing perhaps my literary stuff, traditional, and then my weirder stuff, indie. But traditional publishing will always be my preference, partly because I have an academic career that's, you know, pretty time consuming and uses up a lot of brain power and energy, and trying to do that and write a book and market a book feels like quite a lot. And I'm aware that traditional publishing also requires some degree of effort into marketing, but at least then I don't have to do that, as well as trying to find editors and cover designers, and making all of those little itty bitty decisions is just like another job, and it just feels like going the traditional route, even though yes, you are giving up some control. I feel like giving up that control would win me back a bit more freedom to relax and enjoy the craft of writing, instead of having to invest my energy into the business of authoring, which is kind of the least fun part in my perception. So that's going to be my preferred option. However, because I see myself potentially writing books from quite widely different genres, it might be that, for example, maybe my literary stuff gets picked up and does well, and I can get people to support that work, but those people might not be interested in particularly weird fantasy, and it might be that it's easier just to make that available through an indie approach. So I don't know, we're gonna see, but we might end up hybrid in the long term. I don't know what question I'm up to. Okay, question 8. What content do you bring to the AuthorTube table? Honestly, I don't know, I'm chaos. Also, I have been talking about the Camino story since I started my channel, and giving general updates and randomly talking about books every now and then. I don't know that that's going to continue given the big life change that I'm about to undertake. There might be a shift towards talking about study related content because I'm going to be doing a PhD from September. So exciting, also terrifying because the amount of money that I have to pay just to get there. But anyway, so there's some potential, I think, that my content might actually shift quite a bit reasonably soon. Something that I've always wanted to do but have never done is I would actually really like to host a readathon every year, only because nobody else is doing a readathon of this type, and they should, which is banned books. So previously, each year I've talked about what banned books I'm going to be reading, and I'll dedicate like a month to reading banned books. And I thought it would be cool to make it a proper readathon and, you know, make it not just one little nobody on the internet, but an actual group of people actively supporting people whose writing careers are affected by book bans. I can never remember which one's which. Anyway, I thought that would be cool, but I've never done it because I've got such a teeny tiny little channel that it wouldn't really work. Like, I think starting a readathon and hosting it kind of thing requires that you have a reasonably large established viewership to begin with, and also that you are kind of a voracious reader, and I've become quite slow over the last few years. Like, I think in the last few years I've done 50 books a year a couple of times, but I've also been drawing that back, so more like a book a month or something like that, and that's not really what you need for a readathon. Like, you need, I think, as the content creator or host of an event like that, you need to be an abundant reader, and I don't have that going on. So that has stopped me from doing it, but it's something that, like, I think about every year, especially in the last couple of years. Like, I think it was beginning of last year or even the year before, when the numbers of book bans for that year exceeded the entire previous year, but the year had really only just begun, and we were seeing this massive trend of all these book bans. And I think the international community kind of looks at stuff that's happening in the States and goes, oh, crazy Americans, but the thing is that anything that's normalized in America becomes common in other countries. So I sort of thought it would be cool if a YouTuber talked about book banning, and it would be cool coming from someone who's not American to make it clear that it's not a strictly American issue, even though that's where we get a lot of those scary numbers coming from. But yeah, I'm not big enough to really pursue that, but it's something that I think about. Anyway, I feel like I haven't answered the question. I don't know. Chaos and writing related content, I guess. I don't see myself doing any kind of advice content too often, unless there's like a particular issue that I've been thinking about recently. It's probably going to be more like, this is what I'm currently doing, general updatey kind of stuff. I think, maybe, possibly. I don't know. Don't I sound super organised and like a person you should commit to seeing every week? Okay, what are we up to? Number 9. What's your biggest writing struggle? So, what I noticed with my Camino story is that I definitely struggle with transitions. So if I've got two things that I want to happen, I'll write the two things, and then it feels like almost a list of short scenes rather than a coherent story, and I just sort of expect you to get from like A to C, and you should imagine B on your own, but that's not really how storytelling works. So I might actually make a video discussing this a bit more in detail, but that's been an issue that I've had, and that I feel like writing the Camino story has helped me with, is helping the reader to get from point A to point C instead of just hoping that they'll figure it out themselves. So that's been a struggle. The other thing, which hasn't been as much of a struggle with the Camino story because it's set in the real world, but which I generally think is something I struggle with, is getting the balance between show and tell. Because, you know, you're constantly told as a writer, show, don't tell. And if you've ever been to a writing group or something, you may have experienced this as well. I was getting people to read my stuff, and the instant I explained anything, like one sentence of, you know, because this, that, or the other thing, someone would be like, no, exposition, no, death to exposition. And I'm like, but I'm trying to establish an entirely fictional world and you need to understand what's happening. No exposition! So I think I have developed a bit of a bad habit of not explaining anything. And again, perhaps I'll make a video talking about this in the future, but in an effort to show not tell and avoid exposition, I was under-explaining things, and then this led to people not understanding what I was saying and making up stuff. Or, for example, I'm sure I've talked about before, I've written a scene where there were hyenas approaching, and everyone read that scene as being about werewolves. I never mentioned werewolves, but because the story involved vampires, they automatically assumed that any approaching animal that was a threat to the main character had to be a werewolf. And it was very much not what I had said, but I think because I had under-explained, there was enough imagination room in the scene for them to completely misunderstand. So that's something that I'm going to have to work on when I move on to my next book, which is going to be fantasy, is to make sure I've got that balance a bit more accurate, so that important world building information doesn't get missed or created by people who don't have enough information. So yeah, that's hopefully something I'll do better at going into the next book, because I'm now aware of it. So hopefully it won't be as big of a struggle going forward as it has been in the past. Question 10. What's your best writing skill? Because of my poetry writing, I bring poetry-like description into my prose, which I think for some readers would be a great thing. I'm sure there are some readers who are like, oh my god, what's with the flowery nonsense? But I don't think that I'm a flowery explainer. I think it's just I use unusual explanations that actually make complete sense. And I hope at least that that makes for interesting and pretty prose. I hope, maybe. I don't know. Question 11. If you've been on YouTube for a while, what's your best AuthorTube tip? I don't know. I don't feel like my channel is successful enough that I should be giving any kind of advice. I like the idea of bulk filming. It's not something I've ever managed, but it's something I can really see the benefit of, because it takes so much time to make a video, like way more than you think. You watch a video and you say, oh, it's 7 minutes, cool, I've got 7 minutes. No, because then there's the editing time and the setup time. So at its shortest, even a short video takes way longer to create than the final product would suggest. So I guess it's not really an AuthorTube tip so much as a video creation tip in general, is you have to be aware that it's going to take 2-3 times longer to make a video than the final product would suggest. And there was going to be something else and it ran out of my head in a way. Oh yes, and because of that, bulk filming. Okay, next question. Are you looking for any new channels to follow, betas, CPs, or other type of writing buddies? I am always looking for new channels to follow, always. I spend way too much time watching videos instead of doing other things. Not currently looking for betas or CPs. Not opposed to it, just not currently looking for them. I haven't had great experiences, so I'm a little bit like twice burned now, so never say never, but it's not something that I'm actively interested in at this time. And okay, last question. What are you most excited for during this new fresh start on AuthorTube? Well, this is more a symptom of excitement, is that life has been really, really hard, like physically painful hard for a number of years, and now I'm like, I'm not in pain anymore, and that's very exciting. What I would like to do is to reconnect with the community a little bit. Because I've been so sick, I also haven't been watching people that I actually had been watching for a long time. I just don't have the energy to really engage with anything, and I'm hoping that I can start to do that again and kind of re-establish some of the connections that I lost while I've been sick. And I'm hoping that over the next few years I'll be able to make some different types of content, and maybe that'll give me opportunities to meet different kinds of people through that. Maybe. We'll see. I mean, you know, what I'm going to do is going to be such an upheaval and change in my life that's really hard to predict, but that's the idea anyway. So that was the end of the tag. Thanks for sticking around to the end, and I'll see you next time. Bye!